It was the kind of evening that wrapped the world in a woolen hush. Soft rain drifted down like a lullaby, and the cobbled streets of Glenmere glistened under amber lanterns. Chimneys puffed lazy trails of smoke, and the scent of fresh loaves and pipe tobacco clung to the air like warm memories. At the heart of the village stood a round, timber-framed tavern, the Velvet Tankard. The sign, carved with 2 clinking mugs and a sleeping cat, swayed gently on its iron hook. Inside, firelight painted the walls gold. A trio of fiddlers played slow tunes in a corner, their strings weaving softly with the creak of chairs and low laughter. The atmosphere hummed like a blanket pulled over tired shoulders. At a curved table beside the hearth sat 4 unlikely companions. They were not loud, nor did they draw attention, but there was something quietly important about them. A stillness, as if the story of the night was waiting on their next breath. The first was Selim, a tall human paladin with streaks of silver in his short black hair. His armor was well maintained but bore the kind of wear that comes from travel rather than battle, scratches not from swords, but saddle buckles and forest thorns. He sipped cider from a wooden cup and occasionally glanced into the fire, as though trying to remember something he had never quite known. Next to him lounged Naira, a moon elf sorcerer. Her long hair shimmered in shades of night sky, ink blue, fading to lavender at the tips. She wore no armor, only a flowing cloak embroidered with tiny constellations. A cup of herbal tea steamed before her, untouched. She sat with her eyes half-lidded, listening more to the room than the conversation. Across the table was Bran, a halfling bard who was halfway through both a mug of mead and a melody. He played a lap harp with nimble fingers, not performing so much as dreaming aloud. His brown curls bobbed with each lazy strum. At his hip hung a scroll case stuffed with unfinished verses. And lastly, curled up on a padded bench like a cat with a book, was Thistle, a forest gnome rogue. Her hood was patched with fabric from 10 different towns. She chewed on a cinnamon biscuit and was scribbling in a little leather journal, muttering to herself. "Don't think I didn't see you tuck that spoon into your belt," Bran teased, not looking up from his strings. Thistle didn't even pause. "Wasn't stealing it. Just borrowing. I might need to stir tea later and this place's spoons are clearly under-provisioned." Selim gave a short chuckle. "I believe that makes for this week, Thistle." "5, said Naira quietly, eyes still half-closed. Thistle grinned, unbothered. "I prefer to think of it as inventory redistribution." Just then, the tavern door creaked open. A hush trickled through the room like cold air. Most patrons didn't even glance, but at the adventurers' table, for heads slowly turned. A woman stood in the doorway, hunched with age but proud in posture. Her cloak was soaked dark with rain, the hem tattered with travel. She carried a long, polished walking stick with a glassy blue stone at the top, faintly glowing. Her gray hair frizzed in every direction, as if wind had tangled it for 100 years. But her eyes, they were bright and sharp, like moonlight cutting through clouds. She stepped forward, the tavern growing quieter with each click of her boots. When she reached the fire, she looked directly at Selim, then Bran, Naira, and finally Thistle. "The Whispering Well," she said, voice low and clear, "has begun to stir." The harp string Bran was plucking hummed once, then fell silent. "The Whispering Well," the old woman repeated, louder this time, as the room hushed further. Her voice was slow and level, like the ticking of a very old clock. "It has begun to stir. The dreams of Glenmere grow restless." For a few heartbeats, no one moved. Somewhere behind the bar, a ladle clinked against a pot. The 3 fiddlers in the corner lowered their instruments mid-song. Selim set his cup down gently. "We were told the well's magic faded generations ago," he said. The woman nodded slowly. "It did not fade. It slept." Bran leaned forward on his elbows, curiosity twinkling in his eyes. "And now it dreams aloud?" The woman turned to him. "It calls. Whispers. We don't know what wakes it, or what it remembers. But it is not angry. She paused. Not yet. Naira blinked. What do you need? A kindness, the woman said. Not a sword. A presence. A willingness to go down into the dark and listen. And maybe, her eyes fell on each of them again, lingering longer on Thistle. Maybe remember something the world forgot. Does it pay? Thistle asked, raising an eyebrow. Bran nudged her. What she means is, will we need supplies? No coin, the woman said, but food for the soul, if you've any hunger left for that. Selim stood slowly, a soft clank from his armor. Tell us what you know. The woman gestured to the hearth. The Whispering Well lies a mile west of the village, hidden by bramble and root. It was once a place of dreams. People cast tokens into it to ask for comfort, to send wishes, or to forget sorrow. It was tended by the Dream Warden. But she has not been seen in 3 lifetimes. She looked into the fire as she spoke. For years now, it's been silent. But last night, the dreams of the village changed. People spoke in sleep, muttered names not heard in centuries. Others awoke in tears, or not at all. And the water, she looked at them, her voice tightening, the water speaks. If you put your ear to the stone, it calls your name. Naira shivered visibly. Bran looked intrigued. Selim's jaw set just slightly. I am called Old Mayor, the woman said. I am the last of the Glen Watchers. I keep no staff, no chapel, just this stick and the names of things long left behind. I ask only that you walk to the well, listen to it, and see what needs remembering. Before it grows louder. There was a pause. A long, gentle silence. Then Selim nodded. We'll go. Old Mayor seemed to sigh in relief. Leave before first light. The dreams are strongest at dawn. Thistle hopped off the bench and started packing her scattered chestnuts. I'll need 30 minutes and 2 slices of whatever that bread is. Bran raised his mug. To walking into whispering holes at sunrise with no idea what's at the bottom. Naira finally sipped her tea. That's the spirit. Old Mayor placed a small, woven satchel on the table. For your journey. There's dreamroot inside. Brew it if the way becomes unclear. She turned to go, but Selim gently stopped her. One question, he said. What does it whisper? Maird paused. A name, she said quietly. Ellerin. Then she walked out into the rain, her glowing staff casting just a sliver of light on the glistening stones as she disappeared into the night. The morning came not with trumpets or sunbeams, but with a hush. The kind of stillness that makes you feel like the world is waiting for something, not out of fear, but out of quiet anticipation. Fog clung low to the earth, rolling softly between the cottages of Glenmere like a sleeping cat stretching across cobblestones. The tavern had gone silent hours ago, but in the dim pre-dawn, a door creaked open. Out stepped Selim, cloak pulled over his shoulders, armor polished just enough to reflect the fading starlight. Bran followed, still chewing the end of a pastry he'd smuggled from the tavern's pantry. His lute was slung across his back, and his hair, somehow, was already perfectly tousled. Naira came next, her breath visible in the cold. She had changed into a long navy coat stitched with silver thread that caught the fog light in soft flashes. Her face was calm, as always, but her hands kept tightening and loosening around her staff. And last, nearly tripping on the threshold, was Thistle, who was simultaneously tying her boot, eating the last corner of a jam tart and stuffing a folded map into her bag. I was ready, she mumbled, mouth full. Just, multitasking. The path to the well lay west, through a thinning forest and past a long-forgotten grove. Old Mayor had drawn them a rough sketch on a napkin with surprisingly accurate directional notes. Left at the leaning elm, it had said. Right where the crows never perch. Then follow the silence. They passed the elm an hour later, a great old thing hunched like a storyteller mid-bough. Crows indeed avoided the next grove. The silence there was not ominous, but complete, like walking through a room made entirely of memory. The trees leaned inward as they walked, branches laced above them like hands clasped in prayer. Thistle hummed quietly under her breath, something wordless and soft. Bran didn't play. Nyra walked in near silence, though she paused once to touch the bark of an old tree. "It remembers," she whispered, barely audible. "This forest dreams." Selim kept his eyes on the path, one hand on the hilt of his sword. Not in threat, but reverence, the way someone might carry a torch in a chapel. After a time, the ground began to slope downward. They saw no birds. No deer. Not even the distant rustle of creatures hiding. Only the wind moved, and even it felt cautious. They arrived at the well just as the sky turned gray-blue with morning. The whispering well was not what they'd expected. No crumbling stones or overgrown ruin. It stood tall and whole, carved of smooth white granite, its lip inlaid with old silver runes so faint they were almost forgotten. The well itself shimmered faintly, as though lit from within, not with fire or sunlight, but with memory. A single iron bucket hung from a frayed rope, swaying gently despite the still air. Bran took a slow step forward. "It's humming," he said. Nyra nodded. "Listen closely." They did. And the sound wasn't wind. It wasn't water. It was words. Muffled. As if spoken through deep sleep or distant dreams. Thistle moved toward it, curiosity flickering in her eyes. "Do we look inside or?" "I'll go first," Selim said, stepping ahead. "No offense," Thistle said quickly, "but what if it wants someone smaller?" He glanced at her and smiled. "I'm not jumping in. Just listening." He knelt beside the stone rim. Placed both palms on it. Leaned in. He closed his eyes. And for a moment, everything around them stopped. Then came a whisper, from the well, from the ground, from somewhere. "Selim." He opened his eyes. "It knows me," he said, softly. Not with fear. Just awe. Nyra stepped forward, reaching out with her magic, a tiny thread of blue energy drifting from her fingers into the air above the well. The runes on the stone pulsed faintly in response, and her eyes widened. "There's something beneath. Something old. It's not just speaking to us. It's inviting us." Bran drew in a breath. "Then I say we accept." Thistle was already unspooling the rope and peering into the depths. "You're all very dramatic. I just want to know what's down there." They looked at each other. One by one, they nodded. Then Nyra extended her hand, and with a flick of her wrist, the air shimmered. A small portal of dancing light opened just above the well, revealing a gently sloping staircase leading down, made of silvered stone. "I found the way in," she said. "Let's go listen." And without another word, they descended into the earth. The light from Nyra's portal glowed like a still pond caught in moonlight. It shimmered, not brightly, but softly. Enough to guide the eye without overwhelming the dark. The stone. Steps it revealed wound downward in a slow spiral, etched with runes so old they had eroded into shapes more like song than script. Thistle stepped first through the portal, feet landing with a soft tap on the glistening floor. "Okay," she whispered, peering into the dim below. "Either this is an ancient magical passage to the realm of forgotten dreams, or it's someone's really elaborate wine cellar." "Let's hope it's both," Bran said as he followed, brushing his fingers along the wall. It was smooth, like river-worn marble, but warm to the touch. Nyra came next, her soft light hovering around her shoulders. "It feels like a memory that hasn't happened yet," she murmured. Selim brought up the rear, lantern in hand, though the flame bent unnaturally, not flickering forward, but curling toward the walls, as if the flame wanted to see. The staircase descended for what felt like a long time, but not unpleasantly so. It was more like floating downward in a dream. There were no cobwebs, no signs of abandonment, only silence, and a deep sense of waiting. As they moved further, they began to see faint murals on the walls. First, they passed a painting of a woman cloaked in mist, kneeling beside the well. Her eyes were closed, her hands hovering over the water. Behind her stood a stag with stars in its antlers. Then another, children sleeping beneath glowing trees. Their dreams, tiny painted spirits, drifted like fireflies into the sky. Another mural, a great serpent, not terrifying but tired, coiled around a bell that had never rung. "What is this place?" Thistle whispered. "A place between stories," Naira replied, reaching out to brush her fingers against the wall. "A place where forgotten things wait to be remembered." They reached a landing. The staircase opened into a circular chamber lit by soft, golden stones embedded in the walls. The floor was tiled with worn mosaics, swirling stars, flowing rivers, eyes closed in rest. At the center of the room floated a large, crystalline orb, suspended a foot above the ground, slowly spinning, cracked through the center like a broken teacup. From its core came the whispers. They were not frightening. They sounded like someone trying to recall a song from childhood, distant and tender. Echoes of lullabies, fragments of names, sighs that hadn't been exhaled in centuries. Selim stepped toward the orb. The runes on his armor glowed faintly in response. Then the whispering changed. "You came back." Bran gasped quietly. "Did you hear?" Naira nodded. "It knows." The air in the room changed, not cold, not warm, but aware. Bran stepped forward, harp in hand, and began to play a slow, delicate tune, the kind you'd hear drifting from a cradle late at night. The orb pulsed in rhythm with the music. Naira closed her eyes and murmured soft words in Elvish. Starlight flickered between her hands. Thistle, curious as ever, walked slowly around the orb's edge, studying the crack, her fingers twitching toward her tools. But she didn't touch it. Selim knelt before it and whispered, "We hear you." The orb shimmered brighter. Then came a voice, clearer this time, from within, not booming but close, like someone standing behind a veil. "I am still dreaming, but I don't know who I am." The light in the chamber dimmed, not with menace, but with grief. Thistle glanced around. "We're inside someone's dream," she whispered. Bran frowned. "No, not a dream. A memory trying to dream again." The orb cracked slightly deeper, not with danger, but with strain. Selim turned to the others. "We need to help it remember. We can't mend what we don't understand." Naira nodded. "Then we must go deeper. Into the memory itself." She stepped forward, extended both hands to the orb, and closed her eyes. "Let me in," she said softly. "Show me what was lost." There was no explosion. No blinding flash. Only a shift. The room flickered, the walls faded to mist, and suddenly, they were somewhere else entirely. The world fell away like a sigh. Stone turned to starlight, mist became earth, and the four companions found themselves standing not in a chamber, but in an ancient garden, suspended in twilight. They stood on a winding cobblestone path half buried beneath fallen petals. Trees towered above them, their trunks pale and smooth, their leaves the color of dusk, shades of lavender, slate blue, and silver. The sky above them shimmered like water, not quite day, not quite night. No sun. No moon. Just a soft, even glow, like the light from a candle behind silk. The air smelled of roses and old parchment. Birdsong drifted through the branches, though no birds could be seen. Instead, luminous shapes, like drifting motes of memory, floated through the trees. Some whispered. Some wept. Others simply existed, flickering with faint pulses of color. "What is this place?" Thistle whispered, eyes wide. Bran stepped beside her, his voice reverent. "A memory, not of a place, but of a feeling." Nyra turned slowly, watching the mist motes. "We're inside the dream of the well." Selim looked down. Beneath his feet, the cobblestones weren't laid by hands, they had grown, like crystals, shaped by intention rather than labor. The path branched ahead, one fork vanishing into thick flowered hedges, the other stretching toward a marble archway covered in ivy. The arch stood tall, silent, watching. Without speaking, the group moved toward it. As they passed under the arch, they entered a glade unlike anything they'd seen before. It wasn't just beautiful, it was precise. Every flower bloomed in perfect sequence. The grass was impossibly soft beneath their feet. A pool of water, still and glowing, reflected not their faces but moments, scenes not from this world, but from dreams long forgotten. Thistle stepped near the pool and saw a flicker of herself as a child, chasing a firefly through a hollow tree she never remembered entering. She blinked, and it was gone. Bran's reflection showed a woman's face, familiar but hazy. She was singing. He didn't know the song. Selim saw nothing in his reflection. Only mist. A subtle ache filled his chest. Then the air trembled, and a voice, clear and layered like the voices of wind through chimes, filled the space. "Why have you entered the garden of Ellerin?" The adventurers turned. A figure stood at the edge of the glade, tall and indistinct, as though carved from fog and light. She wore robes of woven dusk and stars. Her hair drifted like cloud trails. Her face was hidden by a veil. Selim stepped forward. "We come from Glenmere. From the waking world." The figure tilted her head. "That name," she whispered, and her voice became softer. "I knew it once." Nyra raised a hand in peace. "The well speaks your name. It is cracked. Restless. We came to understand it." The figure stepped closer, and as she moved, the world responded, flowers leaning toward her, air thickening with longing. "I am Ellerin," she said. "I was once the Dream Warden." Thistle furrowed her brow. "What happened?" "I slept," Ellerin replied. "I slept so long, I forgot why I dreamed. The well was my heart. When the world forgot me, it cracked." Bran slowly walked toward her, his voice soft. "Why did the world forget?" She turned her face skyward. "The world stopped believing in soft things. In secret wishes and lullabies. In stories told under blankets. In walking into dreams with no sword drawn. And so I faded." Nyra frowned. "But the dreams remained." Ellerin turned her head. "They did. They always do. But without a warden, they began to drift. Twist. Fray." She looked at Selim now. "You were chosen to wake me. You carry a piece of forgotten hope in you." "I don't know what that means," Selim said honestly. "You don't need to," Ellerin whispered. "You just need to listen. And follow." The garden shifted. The trees leaned inward. The path behind them vanished, and a new one appeared, narrow, winding between archways of living ivy. Ellerin turned and began to walk. "Come. There is one more place you must see before I can remember who I truly am." The four looked at each other, then followed. They walked in silence beneath living arches of ivy and light. The path was narrow now, edged with memory flowers, blossoms that shimmered with images when one looked too long, a child's laugh, a falling star, a hand held tightly in the dark. Bran slowed often to peer into the petals, humming softly as he passed. "I think I saw my mother," he said under his breath, almost too quietly to hear. Nyra, who walked beside him, gave no reply, only placed a hand gently on his shoulder, grounding him. Ahead, Ellerin moved like mist. She never seemed to take a step, and yet she floated steadily, never turning back. The veil still covered her face, but the veil itself now shimmered with faint symbols, runes of ancient sleep and lost names. Thistle, ever curious, tugged at Selim's cloak and whispered, "I don't like this place." "Too quiet?" Selim asked. "Too sad," she said. "Like the feeling you get waking up from a nice dream you forgot too fast." Selim gave a quiet nod. "That's grief, I think." Thistle didn't answer. She just walked a little closer to his side. Eventually, the path opened. Before them stood a great domed building, crumbling, moss-covered, and wrapped in roots. Though its foundation was cracked and wildflowers grew between its stones, something regal clung to its bones. Arched windows of colored glass flickered with light from no source. A bell tower, tall and bent slightly to one side, stood beside it. From the eaves hung dozens, perhaps hundreds, of small silver bells, each tied with threads of different colors. None of them rang. "This," said Ellerin, halting at the edge of the threshold, "was once the place where dreams were named." "The House of Bells?" Bran guessed. "Close," she said. "It is the House of Broken Bells." She turned to face them. Long ago, every dream had its own bell. A small one for wishes, a longer one for stories, and the rare deep bells for what we called root dreams, the ones tied to who you truly are. Each was hung here, and when someone dreamed with great need or wonder, their bell would ring. She gestured to the tower. But when I began to fade, the bells did not break all at once. They rang out, one by one, until the last fell silent. "Do they still ring?" Nyra asked. "They can," Ellerin said. "But they must be reminded why." She turned to the building and lifted her hand. The great wooden door creaked open with a sound like distant thunder. Inside, it was dim. The kind of dim that asks you to whisper. Stone benches lined the walls. The floor was tiled with silver runes, long dulled. And in the center of the chamber, there stood a wide table of dark oak. Upon it lay bell fragments, some tarnished, some cracked, some whole but dull and silent. At the far end of the room stood a massive brass bell, untouched by age. It reached higher than two men and glowed faintly with golden script swirling across its face. Above it, hanging from a stone arch, was a plaque with a single name. Ellerin. The dream warden approached it slowly. "I left this for myself," she said. "A reminder. A name, in case I forgot my own." She turned back to the group. "But I cannot ring it. Not alone. The sound must be felt, not forced. It must come from those who still remember dreaming." She stepped aside. "Will you try?" Bran approached first. He removed his harp, took a breath, and began to play, not a tune for an audience, but a lullaby without words. Notes born of firelight and rainy windows and drifting off in a loved one's arms. The bell pulsed faintly. Nyra followed, raising her hands. Threads of pale blue magic lifted from her fingertips, weaving starlight into the air, slow and deliberate, like breath moving through night. The bell shimmered. Thistle stepped forward. She fumbled in her pouch for something, then found it, a tiny glass marble, blue with a swirl of gold. She placed it gently at the foot of the bell and whispered, "For my brother. He used to collect these. Said they looked like bottled skies." The bell began to hum. Last was Selim. He said nothing. Simply knelt before the bell and rested his palm against it. Then he whispered, "For the dreams I never dared speak aloud." The bell rang. Not loud. Not grand. But clear. And with it, every small bell outside began to shimmer, not chime, not rattle, but vibrate, like memory returning to a forgotten body. Ellerin let out a long, slow breath. I remember. And the building, for a moment, looked new again. The great brass bell's final note lingered like mist, not fading, but folding softly into the silence, like a lullaby that doesn't need to end. The house of broken bells felt warmer now. The long-forgotten runes on the floor glowed gently beneath their boots, and the air held the scent of lavender and rain-soaked earth. Ellerin stood still for a long time, veil drifting with no wind. Then she turned to them. "I know now why I called you," she said, voice steadier, fuller, no longer stretched thin by time. "But we are not done yet." Thistle stepped forward, tilting her head. "What more is there?" "We rang the bell. You remember your name. Everything here's glowing and floating, and we haven't been chased by a single monster." "There is still a silence beneath," Ellerin said. "Something deeper than memory. A forgetting so old it began before I was born." She motioned toward a narrow door behind the bell, nearly invisible before. "It lies below. In the roots of the well. Where the first dream was cast. We must descend once more." Naira narrowed her eyes. This place was already built from memories. "What's below it?" Ellerin hesitated. "Not a place. A choice. Mine, and now, perhaps, yours." Bran shouldered his lute with a sigh. "Then let's walk into it together." The companions nodded, one by one. Even Thistle didn't crack a joke this time. The narrow door opened to reveal a spiral stairway descending into deep blue light. It felt colder here, but not cruel, more like the hush in a temple, or a library at midnight. The walls were carved with flowing script, not in any single language, but in something deeper, dreams that had never been spoken aloud. As they descended, the light grew dimmer, the stone colder. At last, they stepped into a vast chamber, far below the garden, far below even the world of dreams. Here, a pool stretched across the room, wide and impossibly still. It was dark. Not with shadow, but with depth. The surface reflected nothing. At the edge of the pool stood a stone platform. And on it, an echo of the whispering well itself. Not broken. Not whole. A memory of the well, as it once was, and as it might be again. Ellerin walked to the edge. Her veil lifted slightly in the breeze, or perhaps the breath, that rose from the water. "This is the heart," she said. "The source." Naira stepped beside her. "And what lies beneath it?" Ellerin turned slowly. The forgotten voice. Before anyone could respond, the water stirred. Not violently, no splash, no whirlpool. It simply moved, like breath drawn slowly inward. And then, a voice. Low. Clear. Woven from every voice that had ever whispered into the real well. "You woke her. But not me." The companions stepped back as the water rose, not as a shape, but as a presence. A sound. A pressure behind their eyes and ears. Selim stood firm. "Who are you?" The voice was both near and far. "I am what she left behind. I am the silence she could not carry. I am the weight of every dream that was abandoned." Thistle's voice quivered. "You're the part that didn't get remembered?" "Yes," said the voice. "And I have waited. Not to be heard. To be healed." Bran stepped forward slowly. "How?" There was a pause, long and ancient. Then. "One of you must carry me. Remember me. Walk through the waking world with the burden of forgotten dreams." The pool shimmered. A narrow bridge of light appeared, stretching from the platform into the water's heart. Naira's breath caught. "It wants to live again." Selim turned to the group. "If one of us accepts it, what happens?" Ellerin's eyes glistened with starlight. "You'll walk with a memory not your own. You may feel sadness that never belonged to you. But you'll also hear the dreams of others more clearly. You'll remember things most cannot. Bran looked at his hands. It's a quiet kind of magic. Yes, said Ellerin. The oldest kind. There was silence. Then Thistle, of all people, stepped forward. I'll do it. Everyone turned. You? Bran asked gently. Thistle shrugged. I already collect broken things. Buttons, spoons, bits of dreams. Might as well carry one more. She took a deep breath, stepped onto the bridge of light, and walked into the pool. Thistle's footsteps echoed softly as she crossed the shimmering bridge of light. The pool's surface rippled gently beneath her boots, like waking water stirred by a breeze. The forgotten voice filled her mind, not loud, but present. Like a distant song, half remembered. It wrapped around her thoughts, soft and persistent, stirring long-forgotten feelings and whispered stories. Her eyes widened. It's a sea of quiet sadness, but also hope, she murmured. Selim, Nyra, and Bran watched from the stone platform, their hearts heavy but steady. Ellerin's voice drifted down like a blessing. You carry what we could not. But you are not alone. Thistle nodded, steadying herself. I feel it. The dreams. The memories. They're all here, waiting. Bran reached out, his fingers brushing hers. You'll teach us what you carry. Nyra smiled faintly. And we'll guard you. Selim rested a hand on Thistle's shoulder. Together. The pool shimmered again, and a soft light lifted the companions upward. The stairway reappeared, glowing gently as they began their ascent. As they climbed, the voice within Thistle softened, like the lullaby of 1,000 sleeping children. When they emerged back into the garden, the world seemed brighter, colors richer, scents deeper, air humming with quiet magic. Ellerin smiled, her veil lifting fully to reveal eyes shining with tears and starlight. You have done what I could not. You have reminded the world how to listen. The companions exchanged looks, tired, but hopeful. The garden around them began to dissolve, petals rising like smoke. The path led them back to the chamber beneath the well. The crystalline orb glowed gently, whole once more. Ellerin's voice echoed softly, fading like a sigh. Remember this night. And the names it called. The four companions stepped through Nyra's portal, climbing back into the chamber beneath the whispering well itself. Outside, dawn was breaking, the village bathed in soft golden light. They stepped back into the world, forever changed, carrying new stories in their hearts. The first rays of dawn spilled over the village like liquid gold, painting the rooftops and cobblestones in soft warmth. Outside the whispering well's stone chamber, the air was crisp, carrying the fresh scent of morning dew and blooming wildflowers. Selim, Nyra, Bran, and Thistle stepped out from the portal one by one, their faces calm but touched with quiet awe. The village felt familiar, yet somehow different, as if it, too, had been waiting for their return. Thistle brushed her hands along her cloak and glanced at her companions. I thought the well might just whisper. But it sings now. Bran nodded, adjusting his lute strap. And it's a song that everyone here will hear, if they listen. Nyra closed her eyes briefly, breathing in the new day's light. Dreams don't end, she murmured. They just wait for someone to remember. Selim looked toward the square where villagers were beginning to stir. And we have a story to tell. As they walked through Glenmuir's winding streets, a gentle breeze seemed to follow, carrying hints of starlight and distant lullabies. Faces turned their way, curious and hopeful. At the Velvet Tankard, the tavern's wooden sign creaked softly in the breeze. Inside, the familiar warmth awaited. They took their seats again by the hearth, the flickering fire welcoming them like an old friend. Old Mare sat nearby, her eyes twinkling as she nodded in greeting. You've returned, she said softly. And brought the well's voice with you. Thistle reached into her pouch and pulled out the small glass marble, the bottled sky she'd left by the bell. "Maybe," she said with a shy smile, "this is just the beginning." Bran strummed a gentle chord, and the room seemed to glow a little brighter. Nyra poured a round of herbal tea, its steam curling like wisps of forgotten dreams. Selim raised his cup. "To dreams remembered, and to the quiet magic in all of us." The friends clinked their cups softly, the sound mingling with the crackling fire and the distant, soft ringing of bells, not broken now, but whole. Outside, the village of Glenmere breathed easy once more, wrapped in a blanket of hope and whispered stories. Days passed softly in Glenmere, each dawn bringing new light and new quiet miracles. The villagers began to speak of dreams with reverence again, of wishes whispered beneath the stars, of hopes tucked in pockets and carried through the day. Children left tiny bells by the well's edge, hoping to hear their own dreams ring true. Thistle carried the forgotten voice like a secret garden in her heart. Sometimes, when the night was still and the moon hung low, she would sit by the well and listen, not for answers, but for stories waiting to be told. Selim's armor gleamed brighter with a light not just of steel, but of purpose. He became the village's quiet protector, not just of body but of hope. Nyra's magic deepened, weaving with the dreams around her like threads of starlight. She taught the villagers to listen to the softest whispers of their hearts. Bran's songs filled the tavern, lullabies and legends spun from their journey beneath the well. His melodies carried the magic of forgotten stories into every corner of the village. And old Mayor, with her glowing staff, watched over them all, a guardian of memory and time. One evening, as the sun dipped low, casting the sky in shades of lavender and gold, the four friends gathered once more by the well. The bells hung above them, now singing softly, a choir of voices once silent, now awake. Elleran's voice, carried on the breeze, whispered a promise. "As long as dreams are dreamed, as long as stories are told, I will be here, waiting, watching, remembering." And with that, the village of Glenmere settled into a peaceful night, wrapped in a gentle, timeless magic, the kind that lives in every whispered wish, every quiet hope, and every dream shared beneath the stars. The morning after their return, Glenmere buzzed with new life. The villagers, once silent in their dreams, now spoke with excitement of visions and whispered wishes heard beneath the stars. The bells hanging from the ancient trees chimed faintly with the breeze, as if awakened by some unseen hand. At the velvet tankard, the party gathered once more. The fire's warmth wrapped around them like a familiar cloak. "I never thought dreams could be so tangible," Nyra mused, tracing delicate runes in the air with her fingers, small sparks flickering like fireflies. Selim leaned back in his chair, polishing his sword with slow, thoughtful strokes. The well's magic isn't just about wishes or stories. It's a force of connection, between people, memories, and worlds. Bran strummed his lute, setting a gentle melody that filled the room. "I feel like this is just the beginning. The well calls not just here, but beyond." Thistle nodded, eyes bright. "If the forgotten voice lives inside me now, then maybe the ripples from the well are spreading." Old Mare shuffled over, leaning on her staff. "You're right. The magic stirs far beyond Glenmere. There are places where wells like this once stood, places forgotten, lost, or broken. Each holds a piece of the world's dreaming." She tapped her staff against the floor. "And there are those who would see these places silenced forever." Nyra's eyes sharpened. "You mean enemies?" Mayor's gaze darkened. "Not just enemies of flesh and blood, but forces that feed on silence and forgetting. The Void Walkers. They consume memories, dreams, and hope." Selim's hand tightened on his sword hilt. "Then we must prepare. If the well calls others like it, we should seek them out before the Void Walkers find them." Bran looked around the tavern, eyes gleaming with resolve. "An adventure worthy of song." Thistle smiled, revealing a hidden pouch filled with herbs and charms. "I've been gathering things, dreamroot, starflower, and even a little moonstone dust. We'll need all the help we can get. Naira nodded, her fingers weaving a soft blue glow. We should study the runes in the chamber beneath the well. There might be clues to the others. Old Mare smiled faintly. Then it settled. The Dreamwarden's legacy continues, with you. The fire crackled as the night deepened, the stars outside twinkling with the promise of journeys yet to come. The following morning dawned with the sun spilling golden light through the tavern windows, dust motes dancing like tiny spirits in the air. The companions gathered their gear and headed toward the chamber beneath the well, the place where memories lingered and the magic hummed softly in the stone. Naira traced her fingers over the ancient runes etched into the floor, her voice a quiet chant in the old tongue. As she spoke, the carvings shimmered, lifting like ribbons of silver smoke that wove into a map glowing on the wall, a sprawling network of glowing dots, lines, and symbols. This is the Library of Forgotten Dreams, Naira explained. A place not of books, but of lost hopes and secrets, scattered across the realm. Selim's eyes narrowed. How do we find it? Each dot represents a dream well, a source of magic and memory, hidden and protected by wards. Some are easy to reach. Others, guarded by trials. Bran plucked a thoughtful chord. A quest, then. To rekindle these wells and protect them from the Voidwalkers. Thistle unfurled a worn parchment map she had taken from the chamber's alcove. Look here, this mark, she pointed, is close. A ruin called Lornshade, hidden deep in the Mistwood forest. It's said to house a dream well. Old Mare's voice came from the doorway. Mistwood is no place for the faint of heart. The forest shifts with the memories of those who enter. Many never return. Naira's hands glowed faintly. But the Dreamwell's light could be a beacon, to others, and a defense against forgetting. Selim sheathed his sword decisively. Then it settled. We leave at dawn. The night before their departure, the tavern filled with whispers and hopes as villagers left charms and small bells by the well's mouth. Gifts for protection and courage. The companions spent hours preparing, studying runes, brewing potions, and sharing stories by the fire. Bran composed a new song, one of courage and friendship, hope and memory, a song to carry with them into the unknown. At dawn's first light, the party set out from Glenmere, the village slowly stirring behind them. The path to Mistwood wound through rolling hills dotted with wildflowers and ancient stones, their shapes worn smooth by centuries of wind and rain. Selim led, his boots steady on the earth, sword sheathed but ready. Naira's hands glowed faintly, weaving small wards of protection as they walked. Bran sang soft songs of old heroes and new beginnings, the notes drifting like a warm breeze. Thistle, carrying the weight of the forgotten voice deep inside her, moved quietly but alert. The road soon gave way to dense forest, the trees growing taller and closer, their boughs thick with moss and the scent of pine. Mist curled low to the ground, curling around roots and rocks, softening every sound. Welcome to Mistwood, Naira whispered. It's a place where the forest remembers everything. Every footstep, every secret, every forgotten hope. As they pressed deeper, the air shimmered. Shadows flickered between the trees, not quite solid, but not merely illusions either. Suddenly, a low growl rumbled through the mist. From the underbrush, a large wolf with eyes like molten gold stepped into the clearing, muscles rippling beneath its sleek fur. Selim drew his sword slowly, ready but not eager for battle. The wolf's gaze fixed on Thistle, who stood calm, fingers tracing a pattern in the air. Easy, she murmured. A soft glow surrounded her hands, a spell of calm and kinship. The wolf's ears twitched, the growl softened, and it lowered itself onto its haunches. Bran smiled. Looks like we've made a new friend. Naira knelt beside the creature, whispering an old elvish blessing. The wolf's golden eyes sparkled with recognition. This forest is alive, she said. And it welcomes those who respect its dreams. Their journey had only just begun. The party traveled deeper into Mistwood, the dense canopy above blotting out much of the sunlight. Shadows danced beneath gnarled branches, and the air was thick with the scent of damp earth and ancient wood. The wolf, which Thistle had quietly named Fawn, trotted alongside them, his golden eyes ever watchful. After hours, the trees began to thin, revealing the crumbling outline of what once had been a grand hall. Moss and vines clawed up its stone walls, and shattered stained-glass windows caught the faint light in shards of color. Bran ran his fingers over a broken pillar etched with worn symbols, some similar to those beneath the Whispering Well. "This must be Lornshade," he whispered. "A place where the old Dream Wardens met long ago." Nyra stepped forward, murmuring incantations to detect magic. Her eyes glowed faintly as she traced her fingers over the cracked stones. "There is power here," she said. "But it's restless. Like a storm waiting to break." Selim tightened his grip on his sword. "We should be cautious. The Voidwalkers may already be near." As they ventured into the ruin's heart, the ground trembled softly, and the air grew colder. Suddenly, shadowy figures emerged from the walls, formless shapes that flickered like smoke and whispered of forgotten sorrows. The companions braced for battle. Bran strummed a protective chord on his lute, weaving a shield of sound. Thistle muttered a spell, fingers weaving patterns of light and shadow. Nyra called upon the stars, her hands glowing with celestial energy. Selim charged forward, sword gleaming with runes, striking at the nearest shadow. The clash echoed through the ruin as the Dream Wardens fought not just for survival, but for the hope buried deep within the ruined stones. The shadows recoiled as Selim's blade sliced through their smoky forms, dissipating into wisps of forgotten sorrow. Bran's music swelled, the notes weaving a protective cocoon around the group, while Nyra's celestial light pulsed in rhythm, illuminating the ancient carvings that lined the ruined walls. Thistle's fingers danced in the air, tracing sigils that shimmered with power. "We can push them back, but they won't stay gone," she warned, eyes narrowing. As the last wisp vanished, a soft hum echoed from deep beneath the floor. The ground trembled again, and a hidden stone slab slid aside, revealing a spiraling staircase carved into the bedrock. Nyra's eyes sparkled with awe. The heart of the Dream Well. The party descended cautiously. The air grew cooler, tinged with a faint fragrance of night-blooming flowers and ancient magic. Soft blue light emanated from glowing crystals embedded in the walls, casting dancing shadows along the narrow passage. At the bottom, they entered a vast cavern where water pooled in a natural basin, clear and still, reflecting countless stars that seemed suspended within its depths. In the center floated a translucent orb, alive with swirling dreams and memories. It pulsed gently, as if breathing. Thistle approached, her breath catching. "This is it, the Dream Well. It's alive." Elrond's voice echoed softly in their minds, a memory carried by the well itself. "Protect it, for it holds the world's forgotten hopes." Suddenly, a chill swept through the chamber. From the shadows stepped a figure cloaked in darkness, a Voidwalker, its form shifting like smoke, eyes glowing with cold hunger. Selim raised his sword, its runes blazing. "We defend this place, no matter the cost." The battle was about to begin. The Voidwalker advanced, a shifting shadow that seemed to absorb light itself. Its eyes burned like icy stars, fixed on the glowing Dreamwell at the cavern center. Selim stepped forward, sword gleaming with runes of warding. "Hold the line. Protect the well." Bran began strumming urgent chords, weaving a sonic barrier that hummed with protective magic. The shimmering shield flickered as the Voidwalker lashed out, its smoky tendrils slicing through the air like whips of darkness. Nyra raised her hands, summoning radiant bursts of starfire that scattered the creature's tendrils, forcing it to retreat momentarily. Thistle's eyes shone with determination as she whispered ancient words. Glowing vines of spectral light erupted from the cavern floor, wrapping around the Voidwalker and binding it in place. The creature snarled, breaking free with a surge of shadow, and lunged toward Selim. Steel met smoke in a clash that echoed through the cavern, sparks flying as runes blazed against darkness. Bran's voice rose in song, steadying his friends and weaving courage into their hearts. Hold fast. Together, we are the light that shadows fear. Naira's magic flared, casting beams of pure starlight that seared the Voidwalker's form. Thistle moved swiftly, chanting a spell that caused the Dreamwell's orb to pulse brighter. A wave of soothing energy washed over the chamber, weakening the Voidwalker's dark power. Selim seized the moment, delivering a final, radiant strike that shattered the creature into wisps of harmless mist. Silence fell. The Dreamwell's glow stabilized, bathing the cavern in gentle light. Breathing heavily, the companions exchanged looks, weary but victorious. Elrond's voice echoed softly, "You have protected the heart. The Dreamwell lives." The cavern fell silent except for the soft pulse of the Dreamwell's orb, glowing warmly now as if breathing with renewed life. The faint scent of night-blooming jasmine filled the air, mingling with the damp earth and ancient stone. Selim sheathed his sword with a weary sigh. The battle is won, but I can feel this place still aches. Naira stepped closer to the orb, her fingers hovering just above its surface. The Dreamwell is fragile, it holds memories and hopes, but also wounds. It needs time, and care. Thistle, carrying the weight of the forgotten voice, knelt by the water's edge. She dipped her hands into the crystal-clear pool, whispering soothing words. The water shimmered, and faint ripples spread outward, casting gentle light onto the cavern walls. Bran sat on a fallen stone, strumming a soft melody that carried the magic of healing and hope. His song wove through the chamber, mending cracks in the runes and soothing the lingering shadows. As the orb's light grew steadier, a vision formed within it, flickering images of Dream Wardens past, guardians of hope and memory. One figure stepped forward, a woman with eyes like twilight and hair woven with stars. Elrond's voice, clear and strong, echoed in their minds, "You are not alone. The Dream Wardens stand with you, past, present, and future. Together, you will keep the dreams alive." Naira's gaze met Selim's. "There's more to learn. More wells to find, and others like us to meet." Thistle smiled softly. "And I'm ready to carry their stories." Selim nodded, determination steady in his eyes. "Then we keep moving forward. For the dreams. For the world." Outside, the first light of dawn filtered through the trees of Mistwood, promising new beginnings. With the Dreamwell of Lornshade restored, the companions set their sights on the next destination marked on the map, glowing in Naira's chamber beneath Glinmir's well. Each step forward was a thread weaving them closer into a vast tapestry of forgotten magic and ancient dreams. Their journey led them beyond Mistwood's whispering trees to the jagged cliffs of Stormspire Reach. Here, the wind howled like a living thing, carrying the scent of salt and secrets. The crumbling fortress perched precariously on the edge of the world, its stones etched with runes pulsing faintly beneath the storm-darkened sky. At the fortress's gate, they were met by a tall figure clad in layered leathers, a hood shadowing her sharp eyes. She introduced herself as Saren, a ranger and keeper of the Stormspire Dreamwell, one of the rare ones still guarded fiercely from the Voidwalkers. Her voice was like the rustle of leaves. "The dreams here are wild, untamed by time or man. They rage like the storms. Few have the strength to protect them." Naira stepped forward, a gentle smile on her lips. "We seek to learn, to protect, and to remember." Saren nodded. "Then follow me. But beware, not all dreams want to be found." As they crossed the fortress's threshold, thunder rumbled above, and the air crackled with magic. The road ahead was uncertain, full of storms, secrets, and stories waiting to be told. The storm-racked walls of Stormspire Reach loomed over the churning sea below, waves crashing against jagged rocks like the earth itself was tearing. The wind tore through broken battlements, carrying the scent of salt and ancient power. Saren led the group through narrow corridors, her footsteps light and sure. This place was built to guard not just against armies, but against the storms and dreams themselves, she said, her voice barely audible over the howl of wind. The companions entered a vast chamber where the air shimmered with raw magic. At its center floated a swirling orb of storm clouds, crackling with lightning and thunder that echoed softly. "This is the Stormspire Dreamwell," Saren said, her eyes fierce. "Its power is wild and untamed. It can grant visions, but also pull you into the storm's heart if you're not careful." Naira stepped closer, her hands glowing with a soothing light. "We must calm it, so it can guide us." As they worked together, Thistle chanting quiet spells, Bran playing melodies to steady the orb's rhythm, Selim holding a ward to ground its power, the storm inside began to soften. Lightning slowed to gentle flickers, thunder became a distant murmur. Suddenly, visions flashed in the orb, a vast sea of dreams, scattered dreamwells, and shadows creeping like tendrils, the Voidwalkers spreading. Saren's gaze hardened. "The fight is bigger than any of us imagined." The party braced themselves. Protecting the Dreamwells was now a quest for the fate of the world itself. From the tempestuous heights of Stormspire Reach, the companions journeyed onward, the weight of the Dreamwells pressing on their hearts like a growing storm. They knew the road ahead was perilous, and they could not face it alone. Their next destination was the city of Silvergrove, a sprawling metropolis nestled where ancient forests meet riverbanks, famed for its scholars, sages, and arcane academies. At the city gates, they were met by Elindra, a scholar of forgotten magics, her robes embroidered with symbols of stars and moons. She regarded them with a keen eye. "The Dreamwarden's legacy is whispered in every corner of Silvergrove," Elindra said. "We have kept records, maps, histories, even prophecies, of the Dreamwells and the darkness that threatens them." Naira stepped forward. "We seek your knowledge and aid." The Voidwalkers grow bolder. Elindra nodded gravely. "Then you will find allies among us. But beware, there are those who seek to exploit the well's power for their own ends." As they walked through the city's winding streets, Elindra introduced them to new faces, warriors, mages, and diplomats, each with their own connection to the Dreamwells and their own reasons to join the fight. Together, they formed a council, united by hope and determination. Bran's songs now carried not just tales of their journey, but rallying cries for all who dreamed. Thistle's burden felt lighter among friends who shared her purpose. Selim stood as a steadfast protector. Naira's magic grew stronger, guided by the wisdom of the city's scholars. And in the heart of Silvergrove, the Dreamwell's light flickered, a beacon in gathering darkness. The city of Silvergrove buzzed with 1,000 whispers, scholars debating forgotten lore, merchants trading rare curiosities, and mages practicing spells in courtyards blooming with arcane flora. Yet beneath its cobbled streets and elegant towers lay older secrets, carved in stone and shadow. Elindra led the companions through a narrow passageway beneath the city, the walls lined with runes that glimmered faintly in the torchlight. Silvergrove was built over one of the oldest Dreamwells, hidden, protected, but also vulnerable. Selim's boots echoed as they descended. "What kind of dangers lurk here?" "Not all who seek the Dreamwells come with pure intent," Elindra said. "There are factions who believe the wells grant power beyond dreaming, control over minds, fate, even life and death." Naira's fingers brushed a glowing rune. "That kind of magic is dangerous. Corrupting." As they ventured deeper, the air thickened, humming with restless energy. At last, they reached a vast chamber where a pool of iridescent water shimmered with countless colors. But the surface was fractured, as if something was trying to break through. Thistle's eyes widened. "The well is wounded." Before anyone could react, shadows stirred at the edges of the chamber, figures cloaked in dark robes, eyes gleaming with ambition. A cold voice echoed. "You meddle in affairs beyond your reckoning." Selim drew his sword, the blade glowing with runes of warding. Bran's fingers found strings, summoning a song to bolster courage. Naira's magic flared, weaving protective wards. Thistle whispered a prayer to the forgotten voice, calling on its strength. The battle for Silvergrove's Dreamwell had begun, and the fate of more than just dreams hung in the balance. The chamber beneath Silvergrove pulsed with tension as the cloaked figures advanced, their dark eyes gleaming with sinister purpose. Their robes whispered secrets in a language older than memory, and the fractured surface of the Dreamwell rippled like a disturbed mirror. Selim planted his feet firmly, sword raised in a warding stance. "Stand your ground. Protect the well." Bran's fingers danced over his lute strings, weaving a song that bolstered their spirits, a melody of hope against creeping darkness. The notes shimmered in the air, forming a protective barrier around the group. Naira closed her eyes, drawing upon the deep wellspring of celestial magic. Light cascaded from her palms, shooting forth like radiant beams that sliced through the shadows. Thistle's voice was a low chant, her hands glowing with ethereal energy as she invoked the power of the forgotten voice within her. Luminous vines sprouted from the ground, twisting and wrapping around the cultists, binding them in place. The leader of the cult, a tall figure with a mask shaped like a broken bell, stepped forward, raising a staff carved from blackened bone. Dark tendrils erupted from the staff's tip, writhing toward the companions. Naira met the attack head-on, summoning a wall of shimmering light that absorbed the blast and reflected it back in a cascade of sparks. Selim charged, his sword glowing with runes, striking the masked figure with a blow that shattered the bone staff. The cult leader stumbled but hissed, retreating into the shadows. The remaining cultists struggled against the binding vines and protective wards, but the companions' combined power was too great. One by one, the shadows dispersed into wisps of smoke, defeated but not destroyed. Breathing heavily, Thistle approached the fractured Dreamwell. "The well's still wounded," she said softly. "They were trying to corrupt its memory." Elindra appeared beside them, eyes grim. "The cult calls themselves the Bellbound. They seek to silence the wells and harness their power for domination." Bran's gaze hardened. "Then they will have to face all of us." Selim nodded resolutely. "This war is only beginning." Outside the chamber, Silvergrove streets were quiet but charged with an uneasy tension. The battle for the Dreamwells had expanded beyond their little village, and soon, all realms would feel its echoes. The flickering torchlight in the chamber cast long shadows as the companions regrouped, catching their breath after the fierce clash. Elindra's expression was grave, her fingers tracing a map worn with age and ink fading from countless hands. "The Bellbound have agents far beyond Silvergrove," she explained, her voice low. "Their influence stretches like tendrils, into courts and forests, cities and wildlands. They are no mere cult, they are a growing force, seeking dominion over all Dreamwells." Naira studied the map, her gaze sharp. "We cannot protect all the wells alone. We must find others who have resisted, who guard their wells fiercely." Selim's jaw tightened. "We need allies, warriors, mages, and dreamkeepers alike." Bran nodded thoughtfully. "And those who have suffered under the Bellbound's shadow may yet rise to fight." Thistle's eyes glimmered with resolve. "The forgotten voice carries their stories too. We can reach out through the wells, send messages, call for aid." Elindra handed them a bundle of scrolls sealed with silver wax. "These are leads, places where resistance flickers, and those who might answer the call." The chamber's walls hummed softly, as if the Dreamwell itself listened. Selim sheathed his sword. "Then we move quickly, before the Bellbound tighten their grip." The group prepared to depart, hearts steeled against the coming storm. Beyond Silvergrove, the world awaited, vast, shadowed, but not without hope. As they stepped into the fading twilight, the stars above twinkled cold and bright, silent witnesses to the gathering conflict. As twilight settled over Silvergrove, the companions gathered once more in Elindra's study, a vast chamber lined with ancient tomes and glowing crystals. Flickering candlelight danced over maps strewn across a great oak table, while the scent of parchment and herbs filled the air. Naira's hands hovered over the crystal orb pulsing with the light of the dream wells. If we can send messages through the wells, then we can rally those who resist the bellbound. Thistle nodded, fingers tracing intricate runes in the air. The forgotten voice is a thread, it connects all dream wells, carrying stories and warnings. Bran strummed softly, a melody to awaken the orb's hidden pathways. Notes shimmered and spiraled, weaving a bridge of sound and light between distant places. Elindra chanted an incantation in the old tongue, and the orb's glow intensified. Visions flickered within, shadowed forests, mist-shrouded mountains, gleaming towers, and hidden sanctuaries. A faint ripple ran through the orb as a distant voice echoed, a plea from a guardian in the northern wilds. Selim stepped forward. Then we are not alone. Help is out there. The group planned their next move, journeys to distant wells, alliances to forge, and dangers to face. Outside, the city settled into night, but the dream wells thrummed with new life. Across the realm, a network of hope stirred awake, ready to stand against the coming darkness. The chill wind bit sharply as the companions left Silvergrove, the sky a steel-gray canvas streaked with clouds heavy with promise and threat. Their path wound northward, toward the wilds where forests grew ancient and secrets slept beneath moss and stone. Mist curled thick between towering pines, their branches weaving a cathedral of shadow. The air was rich with the scent of damp earth and pine resin, and distant howls echoed like forgotten songs. Naira paused, sensing the old magic thick in the air. These woods hold memories, some bright, some dark. The dreamwell here is guarded closely. Bran hummed a steady tune, fingers nimble on his lute, weaving comfort into the cold. Let's hope the guardians welcome us. As they pushed deeper, the trees parted onto a clearing bathed in pale moonlight. At its center, an ancient stone well stood, wrapped in vines and crowned with glowing runes. A lone figure emerged from the shadows, a tall woman clad in fur and leather, her eyes sharp like a hawk's. "I am Kayla, guardian of the northern dream well," she said, voice steady as the forest. She studied them carefully. "The bellbound's shadow stretches here, too. We have fought to keep the dream well safe." Thistle stepped forward, sharing the tale of the Whispering Well and their fight against the cult. Kayla's eyes softened. "Then you have allies here. Together, we can stand." The night air hummed with newfound hope, and the steady rhythm of drums, a call to arms echoing through the wilds. The clearing crackled with energy as Kayla led them to a hidden encampment nestled between ancient trees, where a band of rugged warriors and spellcasters gathered. Their faces bore the marks of countless battles, but their eyes gleamed with fierce determination. "We've kept watch here for moons," Kayla explained. "The bellbound sends scouts and shadows, testing our defenses." Selim nodded, unsheathing his sword. "Then we'll strengthen your ranks. Together, we are stronger." As the companions settled in, scouts burst through the underbrush, a band of cultists, cloaked in dark robes, moving swiftly under the cover of night. Bran's fingers flew across his lute strings, weaving a battle hymn that raised spirits and steadied nerves. Naira's hands glowed with celestial light, conjuring radiant barriers. Thistle muttered a spell that sent tendrils of light curling around the attackers, binding some in place. Selim met the cultists head-on, his blade a beacon of hope in the dark woods. Kayla fought with a fierce grace, her arrows striking true amidst the chaos. The battle was swift and fierce, but the bellbound scouts were driven back, their retreat a grim warning. Later, around the campfire's glow, Kayla shared stories of lost wells and hidden refuges, places where the dream wardens once gathered. Thistle's voice was quiet but resolute. "The dream wells connect us all. The bellbound seek to break those ties. We must bind them tighter." The night hummed with resolve and whispered promises, the fight was far from over. The morning sun filtered through the dense canopy as the companions gathered their belongings, preparing to journey deeper into the wilds. Kayla led the way, her steps sure on a barely visible path winding through ancient trees whose branches seemed to whisper secrets. "We're heading to the hidden refuge," she explained. "A sanctuary for those who guard the dream wells, a place lost to time and memory, shielded by powerful wards." The group moved quietly, alert to the forest's subtle shifts, a rustle too soft, a shadow flickering just beyond sight. The air was thick with magic, old and deep. As they approached a clearing, the ground suddenly trembled, and twisted roots burst from the earth, animate and hostile. From behind them, a chorus of eerie laughter echoed. "Bellbound," Kayla growled. "They've been tracking us." Selim stepped forward, sword drawn, eyes sharp. "Prepare yourselves. We fight for the dreams." Bran's fingers danced over his lute, weaving a melody that sparked courage and clarity. Naira summoned radiant light, casting it like a shield over the group. Thistle whispered spells that sent glowing vines spiraling upward to ensnare the attacking roots. The battle was fierce but brief. The animated roots withered under combined magic and steel, and the cultists retreating into the shadows. Beyond the skirmish, the clearing opened to reveal an ancient stone archway inscribed with runes pulsing with protective magic, the gateway to the hidden refuge. Stepping through, the companions found themselves in a sanctuary bathed in soft golden light, where the air was alive with the hum of ancient power. Crystals embedded in the walls glowed softly, and a clear pool reflected countless stars, a dream well preserved in timeless grace. Kayla smiled. "Here, the dream wardens gather. Here, we find strength to face the darkness." The sanctuary hummed with quiet energy as the companions entered a great hall carved from living stone, its walls shimmering with ancient glyphs. Figures cloaked in robes of silver and midnight gathered in a circle around a glowing dream well, their faces marked with wisdom and weariness. Kayla introduced the newcomers. "These are the dream wardens, guardians of memory, hope, and dreams. They have watched over the wells for generations." An elder stepped forward, her eyes deep pools of time. "Welcome, travelers. The shadow of the bellbound darkens all our paths. But together, we may yet turn the tide." Naira bowed respectfully. "We come with news from Glenmere and Stormspire, and the fight against the bellbound grows urgent." The elder nodded. "We have sensed the stirrings. The cult's hunger for control threatens to unravel the weave of dreams that binds our world." Thistle shared her burden, the forgotten voice echoing softly through the chamber. "The wells sing a song of resistance, but it is fragile. We need unity, knowledge, magic, and strength combined." Selim stepped forward, voice steady. "We have fought side by side, but the bellbound's reach is vast. We must act as one." Bran's fingers traced a soft melody, weaving their hopes and fears into a song that filled the hall with light. The council murmured in agreement, ancient faces glowing with renewed determination. Plans were made, to seek out lost wells, to fortify defenses, and to root out the bellbound's agents wherever they hid. Outside, the sanctuary's dreamwell pulsed brighter, a beacon calling to all who dreamed of freedom. The council's decisions echoed through the sanctuary as the companions prepared to set out once more. Their mission was clear, to seek the lost wells, forgotten sources of magic scattered across forgotten lands, hidden beneath ruins, and guarded by ancient enchantments. Kayla spread a worn map across the stone table, its edges frayed and ink faded by time. Many wells have been lost to memory, swallowed by wilderness or buried beneath the ruins of forgotten kingdoms. Naira traced a finger along the map. "If we can find them and rekindle their light, the bellbound's darkness will falter." Bran's lute hung at his side as he looked to the group. "Each well holds a story, a dream preserved. We must listen to them." The journey ahead promised new challenges, cryptic riddles, forgotten guardians, and ancient traps set by those who once protected these sacred places. Selim checked his gear, resolve firm. "We face unknown dangers, but with allies and purpose, we will prevail." Thistle nodded, her thoughts heavy but hopeful. The forgotten voice will guide us, whispering truths hidden in shadows. As they stepped back into the forest's embrace, the lost wells awaited, each a beacon of hope against the encroaching night. The path was uncertain, but the dream of light burned bright within them. The path to Elderglen wound through dense thickets and misty valleys, where ancient trees arched overhead like guardians of a forgotten age. The air grew thick with the scent of moss and rain, and every step seemed to echo with whispers from centuries past. As the companions approached the ruins, the remains of stone pillars and collapsed walls emerged through the undergrowth, weathered by time but still pulsing faintly with magic. Bran ran his fingers along a crumbled statue, its features worn but noble. Elderglen was once a place of great learning and light. Now it's a husk haunted by shadows. Nyra knelt beside a shattered altar, her voice soft as she invoked ancient blessings to cleanse the lingering darkness. Suddenly, the ground trembled and twisted roots burst forth, guardians summoned by the well's ancient wards to test those who sought its power. Selim drew his sword, standing firm. We must prove ourselves worthy. The battle was fierce, the guardians swift and relentless. Thistle's spells bound roots and shattered stone, while Bran's music bolstered their strength. As the last guardian fell, the ground before them parted, revealing a hidden chamber glowing with ethereal light. Inside, the lost well shimmered, a pool of liquid starlight reflecting dreams long forgotten. Nyra touched the water gently. The well remembers. We must rekindle its flame. Together, they channeled their magic and hope into the well, watching as its light brightened, a beacon renewed. The path ahead remained perilous, but Elderglen's dream well was once more a spark in the growing darkness. Emerging from Elderglen's sacred chamber, the companions found themselves beneath a sprawling network of caverns, the echoing halls, where every sound lingered like a memory trapped in stone. Water dripped in slow rhythm, mingling with their footsteps to create a haunting symphony. Nyra's voice barely rose above a whisper as she cast light spells that danced along ancient murals depicting the Dreamwarden's past victories and losses. These halls were once a sanctuary, a place where dreams and reality intertwined. Bran hummed a melody, his music resonating with the cavern's natural acoustics, strengthening their resolve. Suddenly, shadows stirred, not hostile, but restless, as if the stones themselves remembered long-forgotten voices. The party paused, sensing the weight of ages pressing upon them. Thistle closed her eyes, feeling the pull of the forgotten voice. The echoes hold wisdom, but also warnings. From the darkness emerged a figure, a guardian spirit woven from light and mist, its eyes pools of ancient knowledge. It spoke in a voice like wine through leaves, seekers of the dream wells, the bellbound's darkness grows. The echoing halls hold a secret that may turn the tide, if you are worthy. Selim stepped forward, resolve firm. We will prove ourselves. The spirit gestured, revealing a puzzle carved into the cavern walls, a riddle of light and shadow, memory and hope. The companions gathered, pooling their knowledge, magic, and courage to unlock the ancient secret, knowing the fate of many dreams depended on their success. The cavern's walls shimmered as the guardian spirit's eyes glowed softly. The riddle before you is woven of duality, light and shadow, memory and oblivion. Only through balance may the secret be revealed. Bran stepped forward, studying the intricate carvings, swirling patterns of sun and moon, intertwined vines of silver and black. It speaks of harmony, not dominance. Nyra raised her hands, conjuring delicate orbs of radiant light that floated above the symbols. Perhaps we must align the light to reveal what lies hidden in the darkness. Thistle traced her fingers over the runes, whispering the ancient words the forgotten voice had taught her. The memory of dreams preserved in shadow must be brought into the light. Selim steadied himself, gripping his sword as a steadying force. Then let us combine our strength, light and shadow, hope and memory. Together, the companions shifted glowing orbs into place, their movements choreographed like a dance. As the last orb aligned, a beam of pure light shot forth, illuminating a hidden passage that had been cloaked in darkness. The guardian spirit nodded solemnly. You have unlocked the path to the next well. But beware, for the bellbound's reach grows ever longer. With renewed purpose, the party pressed onward into the newly revealed corridor, the air thick with ancient magic and looming danger. The narrow passage opened into a vast chamber veiled in silvery mist, where whispers floated like leaves caught in an unseen breeze. The air shimmered with forgotten memories, delicate and fragile as cobwebs spun by time itself. Naira stepped cautiously, her fingers tracing invisible threads of magic that wove through the air. This place, it feels like a crossroads of dreams and reality. Bran's voice was soft, weaving a gentle melody that seemed to ease the restless whispers. The Vale of Forgotten Dreams. A place where lost hopes linger, waiting to be remembered or released. Thistle's eyes glistened with sadness and resolve. Many dreams have been forgotten here, stolen by the bellbound or simply faded with time. Selim kept a vigilant watch, blade ready. We must tread carefully. The Vale is a place of vulnerability and power. As they moved deeper, shadowy figures flickered at the edges of their vision, remnants of past dreamers, caught between worlds. Some reached out with silent pleas, others seemed lost to despair. A voice echoed, soft but urgent, "Remember us, free us." Naira knelt beside a shimmering pool, touching its surface gently. Images rippled, faces, places, stories, fragments of dreams yearning to be made whole again. The companions realized their task here was not just to protect, but to heal, to gather the scattered hopes and bind them into a force strong enough to resist the encroaching darkness. As they worked, the veil pulsed with renewed light, a fragile beacon of hope amid the growing shadows. The light from the Vale of Forgotten Dreams flickered uncertainly as the companions worked tirelessly to gather and mend the fractured hopes trapped within the mist. Each recovered memory was a small victory, a thread woven back into the tapestry of the Dreamwell's power. But the sanctuary was not immune to the dark tides that swept across the land. A sudden chill swept through the chamber, silencing the whispered pleas and stilling the shimmering pool. The air thickened, heavy with menace. Selim's sword sang as he drew it with a sharp hiss. They're coming. From the shadows emerged forms both familiar and terrible, figures cloaked in darkness, their eyes glowing with cruel intent. The bellbound had found them. Naira's hands flared with radiant magic, sending beams of light that cut through the encroaching gloom. Bran's battle hymn rose, a clarion call to courage and defiance. Thistle wove binding spells, entangling the advancing shadows with glowing vines that pulsed with life. The fight was fierce, steel clashed with shadow, light battled darkness in a desperate dance. But the companions stood firm, their unity a beacon that pushed back the rising shadows. As the last cultist fell, the Vale's light steadied, stronger for their struggle. Yet the battle was only a prelude. The bellbound's hunger had not been sated. Selim sheathed his sword, voice grim. This war will test everything we hold dear. Naira nodded, her gaze steady. But we will not falter. The Dreamwells whispered their resolve, and the companions prepared for the battles yet to come. Outside the Vale of Forgotten Dreams, the world seemed to hold its breath. Dark clouds churned overhead, and the wind carried distant echoes of war drums and whispered threats. The companions stood atop a ridge overlooking a vast valley, where armies stirred and shadows lengthened. Elindra's voice broke the tense silence. The bellbound gather forces. Their ambition stretches beyond the Dreamwells, they seek to control the waking world itself. Kayla tightened her grip on her bow. We must rally allies, kingdoms, clans, and secret orders who understand what's at stake. Naira looked to the horizon, determination blazing in her eyes. Then we ride for Silvergrove. The council must prepare. Bran strummed a stirring tune, a call to hope and resistance that would soon spread like wildfire. Selim tightened the straps of his armor. The storm approaches. We face it not as four, but as many. Thistle whispered a prayer to the forgotten voice, her voice steady amid the gathering tempest. As they descended toward the city, the sky darkened, lightning flashing like a herald of the battles to come. The war for the Dreamwells was no longer a secret. It was a gathering storm, and only unity could withstand the coming tempest. The city of Silvergrove bristled with tension as the companions returned, their news sparking urgent preparations. From the high towers to the bustling streets, the clang of smithies and the calls of heralds filled the air. The Dream Wardens rallied defenders, mages weaving wards, soldiers training with grim resolve. Selim moved through the city, his sword ever at the ready. We cannot afford weakness. Every corner must be guarded. His voice was firm but carried the weight of responsibility. Naira convened with the council, drawing intricate sigils of protection in the air. The Bellbound's forces will come like a shadow wave. Our magic must hold the line. Outside the city walls, dark banners rose, the Bellbound symbols stark against the stormy sky. Drums echoed through the valleys, heralding their approach. Brand's songs turned fierce and rallying, inspiring the defenders. Hold fast. For dreams and dawn. Thistle moved among the wounded, her prayers calling on the forgotten voice to soothe pain and bolster spirit. As the Bellbound's army surged forward, the sky split with thunder and lightning. The battle for Silvergrove had begun, a clash of light and shadow, hope and despair. The companions stood together at the forefront, knowing this siege would test their courage, magic, and will. The gates of Silvergrove shook under the relentless assault of the Bellbound. Arrows darkened the sky, clashing against shields and magical wards. The air was thick with smoke, the clash of steel, and the cries of the brave and the fallen. Selim stood amid the defenders, his sword a blazing beacon as he carved a path through shadowed foes. His voice rang out, steady and strong. Hold the line. For every dream we protect. Naira's hands glowed with radiant energy, weaving barriers of shimmering light that shielded the wounded and turned aside deadly spells. Her eyes scanned for the source of the enemy's magic, seeking to disrupt their dark rituals. Brand's lute rang out, a fierce anthem of hope. His fingers flew over the strings, each note bolstering courage and healing weary hearts. Soldiers fought with renewed vigor, singing his song as they pressed back the tide. Thistle moved like a whisper through the battlefield, her healing spells mending wounds and her prayers rallying spirits. The forgotten voice echoed in her words, a soothing balm against despair. Amid the chaos, the companions spotted a figure cloaked in black, the Bellbound leader, commanding dark magic with cruel precision. Naira's gaze met theirs, and she nodded to the group. Selim tightened his grip. This ends now. Together, they surged forward, steel, song, and spell intertwined, ready to face the darkness at its heart. The battle's roar dulled around them as the companions closed in on the Bellbound leader, a towering figure wrapped in shadows, eyes burning like smoldering coals. Dark energy swirled around them, tendrils of power lashing outward, distorting the very air. Naira stepped forward, chanting incantations of light and binding, her hands weaving radiant sigils that pulsed with celestial energy. Your darkness ends here, she declared. The leader snarled, raising a hand to unleash a wave of corrupt magic. Selim lunged through the storm of shadows, sword blazing with runes of ancient power. His blade met the dark aura, clashing with a deafening crack. Brand's music soared, threading through the chaos like a silver thread, strengthening allies and unraveling dark enchantments. Thistle called upon the forgotten voice, her voice steady and sure, weaving protective wards that shielded the group from lethal spells. The duel between Selim and the shadowed leader was fierce, steel against sorcery, light against darkness. The chamber trembled with the force of their clash. With a final surge of strength, the companions combined their powers, Naira's radiant beams, Brand's uplifting anthem, Thistle's protective magic, and Selim's righteous strike. The leader's shadow shattered, dissolving into a swirl of dissipating darkness. Silence fell over the battlefield. The Bellbound's hold began to wane as their dark magic unraveled. Breathing heavily, the companions looked to one another, weary but victorious. The Dreamwell's light had been preserved, for now. The first light of dawn crept softly over Silvergrove, casting golden hues on streets scarred by battle. The air was heavy with the mingled scents of smoke, rain, and fresh earth. Silence hung like a fragile veil over the city, broken only by whispered prayers and quiet footsteps. Selim stood atop the city walls, gaze distant but steady. The bellbound are broken, but not destroyed. Their shadows will linger. Naira moved among the wounded, her hands gentle as she called healing light to mended flesh and spirit. The Dreamwells remain, stronger than before, but the fight is far from over. Bran wandered through the streets, sharing songs of courage and hope, lifting spirits with every note. Children gathered around, eyes wide with wonder as he sang of heroes and light. Thistle knelt before the whispering well, her voice low and reverent. The forgotten voice carries their stories now, tales of sacrifice and triumph, and of dreams rekindled. The Council of Dream Wardens convened, faces weary but resolute. Plans were drawn to rebuild, to guard the wells, and to prepare for threats yet unseen. Elindra approached the companions. Your journey is only beginning. The Dreamwells connect all realms, and new dangers stir beyond the horizon. Selim sheathed his sword, determination hardening his features. Then we will meet them, together. Naira smiled softly. For every end is a new beginning. The city breathed, alive with hope and quiet strength. The Dreamwells whispered on, and the story continued. The companions gathered at the city's edge, where the field stretched wide and the horizon seemed endless. Beyond Silvergrove lay lands unknown, wild frontiers, ancient ruins, and realms whispered of in legends. Kayla stood beside them, her eyes scanning the distant mountains. Beyond the Dreamwells of this region lie others, some guarded by fierce clans, others lost to shadow. Naira traced a pattern in the dirt, the soft glow of her magic illuminating the dusk. The network of wells is vast, connected by dreams and memory. Each well rekindled is a step toward unity. Bran tuned his lute, the strings singing a hopeful melody. There are stories waiting to be heard, songs waiting to be sung. Selim adjusted his armor, the weight of responsibility tempered by hope. We must journey farther, seek allies, and root out darkness wherever it hides. Thistle whispered a quiet prayer to the forgotten voice. The road ahead is long, but we are not alone. The wind carried their resolve forward, a promise to the Dreamwells and to the world. As stars began to twinkle above, the companions set forth, their hearts bound by purpose, their path illuminated by the light of countless dreams. The companions trudged through the biting cold of the frozen vale, a land where winter seemed eternal and the wind whispered ancient secrets. Snow blanketed the jagged peaks, and the icy air bit at their skin despite their layered cloaks. Kayla led the way, her breath visible in the frost as she scanned the horizon. The frozen vale holds one of the most elusive Dreamwells. It is guarded by spirits of ice and snow. Naira's fingers glowed faintly, summoning warmth and light to shield the group from the harsh chill. The cold here isn't just physical, it's a test of will and heart. Bran hummed a steady tune, the notes swirling in the air like embers in the frost, bringing comfort and hope against the biting cold. Thistle whispered prayers, invoking the forgotten voice to soothe the frozen land and awaken the dreams trapped beneath the ice. Selim's breath was steady, eyes sharp. We must be vigilant. The Bellbound's reach may have frozen these lands in shadow. As they approached a cavern entrance glittering with frost, a chorus of ethereal voices rose, warning of trials ahead. Inside, crystalline walls shimmered with trapped memories, and ancient magic hummed beneath the ice. The companions steeled themselves for the challenges to come, knowing that rekindling this dreamwell could thaw not only the land but the hearts of those who had long forgotten hope. The frozen cavern's entrance yawned before them, its crystalline walls gleaming like shards of a shattered star. As the companions stepped inside, the temperature dropped further, and the air hummed with ancient power. Kayla moved cautiously, her boots crunching softly on the frost-covered floor. These trials will test not only our strength but our memories and resolve. Naira reached out, touching a frosted wall. Images flickered beneath the ice, fragments of forgotten moments, faces lost to time, echoes of joy and sorrow intertwined. Bran's fingers danced across his lute, weaving a melody that echoed softly through the chamber, bolstering their courage. Suddenly, the cavern shifted, walls shimmering as visions materialized, illusions born from their deepest fears and cherished memories. Selim found himself face to face with a shadowed version of his past, a haunting reminder of failures long buried. "I will not be chained by the past," he declared, sword gleaming. Thistle's voice was calm as she wove protective magic around the group, anchoring them against the illusions. "Hold fast to your truths, the forgotten voice guides us." One by one, the companions confronted their trials, battles fought not just with steel and spell, but with heart and will. As each overcame their visions, the ice began to melt, revealing the glowing heart of the Dreamwell pulsing with renewed life. Naira smiled softly. "The well awakens, a beacon of hope for the frozen lands." With the trial complete, the companions prepared to journey onward, strengthened by their triumph and bound closer by shared trials. Leaving the icy trials behind, the companions ventured southward, descending into the ancient caverns known as the Veins of the Earth. These twisting tunnels ran like arteries beneath the mountains, alive with the pulse of deep magic and the heartbeat of the land itself. Kayla's torch flickered, casting dancing shadows on walls etched with glowing runes. The veins carry the lifeblood of the world, hidden streams of power that feed the dream wells. Naira's fingers brushed against the walls, feeling the hum of the earth's energy. "If we can follow these currents, we can find wells long forgotten and restore their light." Bran's voice carried softly through the caverns, a soothing ballad that eased the weight of the darkness. Even beneath stone, dreams flow like rivers. Thistle's eyes narrowed as she sensed subtle disturbances. The bellbound seek to poison these veins, to sever the wells from the earth's heart. Selim moved ahead, his sword ready, every step measured and sure. "Then we must be the guardians, protectors of the veins." The tunnels grew narrow and winding, carved by ancient hands and guarded by stone sentinels awakened by their presence. Echoes of distant whispers filled the air, urging caution and resolve. Together, they pressed forward, hearts steady, ready to face whatever trials awaited in the veins beneath the earth. The companions moved cautiously through the veins of the earth, each step echoing softly off the cavern walls. The glowing runes pulsed brighter, as if sensing their presence. Suddenly, massive stone figures, carved with ancient symbols, stirred from their slumber. Kayla's bow was drawn instantly. "The stone sentinels guard this place. They test all who seek passage." Naira stepped forward, hands glowing with light. "We seek only to protect and restore, not to conquer." The stone guardians rumbled in response, their voices like grinding boulders. "Prove your worth. Only those pure of heart and steadfast in purpose may pass." The companions faced trials designed to test courage, wisdom, and unity. Selim met the challenge of strength, battling a massive sentinel whose blows shook the earth. His strikes were precise, fueled by determination to protect his friends. Thistle's knowledge of ancient lore guided them through riddles inscribed on the cavern walls, unlocking hidden pathways and secrets. Bran's music soothed restless spirits, calming the sentinel's fury and weaving bonds between stone and soul. Naira's healing light mended wounds and bolstered resolve, her prayers echoing with hope. Together, they triumphed, earning the sentinel's respect as the ancient guardians stepped aside, revealing a chamber bathed in shimmering crystal light. At its center, the pulse of a dream well throbbed, faint but alive, waiting for their touch. The chamber glowed softly, walls adorned with glistening crystals that pulsed in rhythm with the faint heartbeat of the dream well at its center. A serene energy filled the space, fragile yet potent, a sleeping ember waiting to be kindled anew. Naira approached the pool gently, her hands radiant with healing light. This well has slumbered too long, its dreams trapped beneath stone and silence. Bran strummed a delicate tune, weaving melodies of hope and renewal into the air, each note resonating with the crystal's glow. Thistle whispered prayers to the forgotten voice, her voice steady as she called forth ancient magic to stir the well's essence. Selim stood guard, sword gleaming, ever watchful for threats that might seek to disrupt their sacred task. Nyra's eyes glimmered with anticipation. The knowledge here may hold the key to the Bellbound's origins. Bran stepped cautiously inside, the scent of old parchment and dust filling the air. Shelves stretched endlessly, laden with scrolls and tomes, some sealed with arcane wards. Thistle's fingers traced a cracked manuscript, her voice reverent. Here lie the memories of a world that once thrived on dreams and magic. Selim remained vigilant, alert to traps and guardians that might still linger in the shadows. As they delved deeper, cryptic messages and forgotten lore unfolded before them, stories of alliances broken, prophecies whispered, and ancient spells lost to time. But the library also bore warnings, of power unchecked, of dreams corrupted by greed, and of the fragile balance they must protect. The companions knew that to face the coming darkness, they must learn not only from the past but from the mistakes etched in these ancient pages. The deeper the companions ventured into the forgotten library, the heavier the air grew with secrets and forgotten knowledge. Shadows clung to corners and whispered in hushed tones, as if the walls themselves guarded truths too dangerous to reveal lightly. Nyra's fingers brushed across a tome bound in dark leather, its pages humming faintly with latent magic. These writings speak of a ritual, one that could either seal the Bellbound's power forever or unleash a darkness greater than we've seen. Kayla's eyes narrowed. We must find the components and knowledge to perform this ritual, but tread carefully. The Bellbound's agents may also seek it. Bran's lute strummed nervously as he scanned an ancient map, marked with hidden locations and cryptic symbols. There are places untouched by time, where the echoes of the Dreamwells still sing. Thistle deciphered a passage inscribed in a forgotten tongue. The ritual requires balance, light and shadow, sacrifice and hope. It is not a path without peril. Selim tightened his grip on his sword, resolve steeling his heart. Then we must prepare, and protect each other. As the companions gathered their newfound knowledge, a sudden rumble shook the library. Stone shifted, and shadowy figures emerged from hidden alcoves, remnants of ancient guardians awakened by their intrusion. The fight was swift but fierce, the companions' skills and bonds tested anew as they defended the sacred knowledge. Emerging victorious, breathless but unbroken, they knew the stakes had never been higher. The coming days would shape the fate of dreams and reality alike. The companions stood in the heart of the forgotten library's deepest chamber, the ancient tomes and scrolls spread before them like pieces of a long-lost puzzle. The ritual they had uncovered promised a chance to seal away the Bellbound's dark influence once and for all, but the cost was unknown, and likely great. Nyra traced the ritual's intricate symbols, her voice steady but tinged with uncertainty. This is more than a spell, it's a weaving of dreams, light, and sacrifice. We must be united, or the ritual could unravel everything. Kayla checked her gear silently, eyes sharp for any sign of danger. We'll need allies, and time. The Bellbound will not let this happen without a fight. Bran's fingers caressed his lute, preparing a song of strength and protection. Then we fight not just with sword and spell, but with heart and hope. Thistle knelt, calling softly to the forgotten voice. May it guide and guard us through what lies ahead. Selim nodded, sword in hand, resolve ironclad. We stand on the edge of destiny. Whatever happens, we face it together. As the companions began the ritual, shadows stirred beyond the chamber's walls, the Bellbound's forces closing in for a final confrontation. The fate of the Dreamwells, and the world, hung in the balance. The chamber trembled beneath the weight of ancient magic as the companions stood united around the ritual's glowing circle. Symbols writhed with luminous energy, weaving threads of light and shadow into a tapestry that pulsed like a living heart. Naira's voice rang out, clear and commanding, as she chanted the incantation that had echoed through forgotten ages. Her radiant magic flared, casting brilliant beams that chased away the gathering darkness. Kayla, steady and vigilant, loosed arrows imbued with enchanted flame, lighting the chamber's perimeter against the encroaching bell-bound cultists who clawed at the edges, desperate to stop the ritual. Bran's music soared, a powerful anthem of hope and unity that bolstered the companions and fractured the resolve of their enemies. Every note was a shield, every chord a sword. Thistle whispered prayers to the forgotten voice, weaving protective wards that shimmered around them like a sacred armor. Her hands glowed with healing light, mending wounds even as the battle raged. Selim stood at the ritual's core, sword raised high, his spirit aflame with righteous fury. As the Bellbound's leader surged forward, a dark tempest of fury and shadow, Selim met him head-on. Their clash was a storm, steel against shadow, light against despair. With a final, resolute cry, Selim's blade pierced the darkness. The Bellbound leader shattered into a cascade of fading shadows, their dark ambitions unraveling like mist under dawn's first light. The ritual's energy surged, bathing the chamber in radiant brilliance that spilled outward, washing over the dreamwells and the lands beyond. The corruption that had seeped into the world was purified, the wells rekindled with vibrant power. The companions, battered but unbroken, shared a breathless moment of triumph. They had fought not just to save a realm but to preserve the dreams, hopes, and futures of countless souls. Naira smiled softly, her eyes reflecting the new dawn. The light returns, and with it, the promise of peace. Kayla lowered her bow, gaze scanning the horizon now clear and bright. But our journey doesn't end here. Wherever darkness lurks, we will stand. Bran's song softened into a gentle lullaby, weaving the story of their deeds into legend. Thistle's prayers carried their hopes to the winds, while Selim's steady presence was a beacon of enduring strength. Together, they walked from the chamber, the light of the dreamwells shining like stars guiding their path forward. The battle was won, but the story, the adventure of hope, courage, and friendship, would live forever.